Qi Cai Hui, as far as I can work out, means rainbow possibilities, thanks to my online translator. How could I resist a paint that is full of rainbow possibilities? Hello, my name's Liz Chaderton. I'm a watercolour artist based in Berkshire, and every week I share a tip, trick or technique that I wish I'd known about ages ago. I'm always on the lookout for good art materials that I can recommend to people, so I love to try whatever comes my way. So when Paul Rubens asked me to try out the Qi Cai Hui watercolour set, I'm quite proud with how I pronounce that, which means rainbow possibilities, I said yes. So join me as we swatch them out. But swatching is one thing and using them in our paintings is another. So I've done this little floral to see how the paints move on the paper, how they work wet in wet, whether they behave nicely and play well together, or whether they sulk. It is an academy set or a student quality set, and having been impressed with their artist quality, I wanted to see what this was like, because it's always nice to be able to recommend a pretty cost-effective set to people who are just starting out. The set is 24 colours. I say it's student grade, and if you're not sure what that means, there are two grades of watercolour, professional and student, and the student grade tends to, it uses cheaper pigments, so you will often see colours labelled as hue after the name. That simply means that the people, the colour master who has put this together, has not used something, say, like cadmium red in this set. He or she has found the equivalent in a cheaper pigment. Doesn't mean it's worse quality, it just means that it's a different pigment, but the overall colour will hopefully be very close. Student colour might not have as much pigment in it. It might not be as finely ground. There may be fillers. Low quality student paints can look very chalky. So I'm on the lookout here to see whether these paints do flow through the water nicely, whether they have a chalky finish, but maybe they will behave themselves very beautifully and I'll be delighted. So opening the tin, we have a little swatch card, which is great because it's always worth trying your colours out to see how they behave. You can't just look at them in the tin and know what they're going to be like. I am heartened to see that it has all the information I'll be looking for. It has the pigment number. It has whether it is opaque, transparent or semi-opaque. It has a light fastness rating. We have 24 colours, but we don't. We have 26 colours. There are 2 spare, and that is a duplicate ultramarine and a Mars black. So there is an ivory black here, but they give you an extra black. It's interesting because Mars black is a very granulating watercolour, so it'll be fun to try that out. It has some nice mixing areas, which is great. That's good to see. Let's just pop those there. And that can lift out, which may make filling or taking the little sleeves off and things like that just a little bit more easy. And what I should say is it actually has a thumb ring on the back, which is if you were standing up, it helps you support it and not drop it. I don't like the thumb ring, and some people don't. Just get a pair of pliers and take it off. In the Qi Cai Hui list, there are 48 colours in total. We have 24, so let's hope they've chosen the 24 most beautiful rainbow colours. These are half pans. Looks like they have been poured in rather than extruded, so some pans are sort of extruded in sticks, chopped up and then sort of stuck in, means they can fall out more easily. Other pans are poured in, the liquid paint is poured in, and then it's dried. These little sleeves, if we look at them, might need a magnifying glass. It has the colour name, the number, which is just the manufacturer's number, the colour name, this is ultramarine. And does it have more information? Yes, it does. On the side, it again has the pigment number and whether it's transparent and what its light fastness rating is. It's out of its sleeve. You will not necessarily know what colour that is As you get more experienced, of course you will. But if you are a little concerned you'll forget which is which, as you take it out of the sleeve, get a waterproof marker pen and just write the information on the bottom. It's a slow and painful process, but I cannot tell you how important it is to do, because say you drop your tin, they go everywhere, and you'll look at a couple and think, oh, is that cobalt blue or is that French ultramarine? Also, it just makes you start to get familiar with a few of the pigment numbers. And if you're not sure what I mean by pigment numbers, every paint has a number. So this is Chinese white, PW4. P stands for pigment, and then the next letter stands for the colour group, so W, white. This is Chinese white. I very rarely use white in my work, and I think it's a bit of a waste of space. So I'm not going to put the white back in here. The Mars black that they gave us, I'm going to put in. I noticed a couple of things. I noticed a printing error. So on cadmium red pale, it said it was PY255. Y stands for yellow. It is red. So it should be PR255. No biggie. And looked at so the purple lake, it says it's PR88. And when I was just happened to look at that as a pigment, and that is a discontinued pigment, so whether it is a PR88, I don't know. It seems really unlikely. It's quite a rare pigment, and I would be surprised to find it in a student set. I could be wrong. Sap green, that's one of the ones. Say that's just a name, and different manufacturers definitely have different recipes for it, so one sap green will not be the same as another. Always look at the pigment numbers. Just a few of these have cracks in the top. Really don't worry about that, because that as soon as you add water, that will go away. I noticed a couple of the paints actually fell out of their little pots. Again, that should sort itself out as soon as you start using it. It's just shrunk away from the sides of the little pans. Now let's swatch these out and see what they look like in reality. And I would always recommend bringing your paints to life. Give them a little spritz with clean water before you start swatching, and that'll just start to soak in, moisten your paints. If you haven't got a little spray, get one. They are so useful. If not, just put a little dot of water with your brush to bring them to life. I'm just going to put Mars Black. Now, the reason why Mars Black is such an interesting colour, I think I said it was a granulating colour. Granulation is when the paint sort of curdles on the paper, forms little lumps. Is it doing it? Yeah, you can just see a little. The rougher the paper, the more pronounced the effect is. But that can be a really interesting effect, particularly if you're doing landscapes. A lot of artists love granulation. Let's carry on. So this is Flesh, a very sort of yellowy, opaque colour because it's got white in it. Lemon yellow. And I mentioned right at the beginning that if you see hue after the word, it means it's an equivalent. So that's a lemon yellow hue. This is a cadmium yellow hue. And the lemon yellow is a very greeny, cool yellow, and the cadmium yellow is a real egg yolk one. Then we have gamboge. So I need to find a different brush. This brush is horrible. Why did I pick that brush up? So gamboge is another really lovely warm yellow. Can you see this little box that's open? That means it's transparent. This one's got a diagonal line, which means it's semi-transparent. If it's coloured in, it means it's opaque. So getting to know that is really important for if you're layering. You know, an opaque one will cover up more of the layer underneath than a transparent. So let's have a look at the difference between cadmium red pale cadmium red and then cadmium red deep. As I'm picking up the colours, I have to say they are coming off the pans beautifully, which is really good to see, because sometimes you have to really scrub at cheap paints. They don't release the colours, but look, I'm getting a beautiful rich colour just from having woken those paints up. And oh, that purple lake, look at that. What a gorgeous colour. If I just take some of that off and make it a bit paler, you can probably see it better. This one I was intrigued about because when I was writing, it's called cerulean and it is a hue, but it's made with PB15, which is phthalo blue. And I was usually, real cerulean is PB35 probably. So sometimes PB36. So to have it as a phthalo blue, I was surprised. And that is important because phthalo blue is a really staining colour. It's really hard to alter and amend. So that's cobalt blue, be very similar to the ultramarine. In the pans they do look very similar and they are very close on the paper. Now this is phthalo blue. Ooh, that was coming off the pan so well that it was a bit too thick. Now let's spread that out so you can see I do love phthalo blue. So it's the same pigment here, but it's obviously been processed differently to get those two different colours. Indigo. This has got 3 pigments in. Very, very dark. Let's lift a bit of that off so you can see what's going on. That's a nice colour. Then we go into sap green. It's always quite handy to have a couple of what I call convenience colours, because you know, look at this hooker's green. Well, you'd never find that in nature, but maybe that sap green you would. And it's just got a little bit of orange in it that just knocks the intensity out of it. Then we have emerald, very bluey green. One of my absolute favourite colours is burnt sienna. Oh, let's have a look. Yeah, wouldn't say that was my most favourite burnt sienna I've ever seen. So generally I love burnt sienna. I mean, it's not bad, but I've seen nicer. Raw umber, one of the earth colours, really useful colour. Look at that Van Dyke. And the burnt umber. Oh, that's a lovely burnt umber. Finally, we've got the ivory black. Remember, we did the Mars black on the other side. And I haven't bothered swatching out Chinese white because white on white paper is rather tedious. Straight away, that is really interesting because these paints are really creamy. I just spritzed them and I hope you were able to see that I wasn't scrubbing at them at all. I just swiped my brush across and I was getting super creamy paint. Looking at the colours, say that purple lake is beautiful. I would have liked to have seen, another really favourite colour is dioxazine violet, and it would have, which is more of a purple, really deep purple, and that would have been nice to see in the set. And is absolutely lovely. So I'm not convinced I would have put in those 3 cadmiums. I might have put in a cadmium orange rather than one of them as a thought. But we've got a great range of reds and the blues and the yellows, and of course those are our primaries, and that's what we need for our mixing. We've got a couple of convenience greens there, and we've got a nice range of the earths and neutrals. That's looking pretty good. The proof of the pudding, of course, is actually using them. So let's do that now. Your paper is actually far more important than the paints that you use. You can paint a decent painting on good paper with poor quality paints, but even the nicest quality paints on poor paper, you're going to struggle. So I am interested in this because very kindly, if I can actually get it off, yes I can, they've sent me a little sketchbook. And what is it? It is cotton paper. It is cold press, so that's in the UK we call that knot. So it's a middle texture, 300 grams or 140 pounds. Oh, that's got quite a texture to it, hasn't it? And I might have actually said that was more rough than cold press. So that it looks like the texture is the same on both sides, because sometimes you get papers where it's sort of slightly rougher one side or the other. It has got perforation. If you do a masterpiece and want to rip it out to frame it, that should be an easy tear. It's nice. It's got a little elastic enclosure, and I do love a sketchbook with a decent pocket. Dimension-wise, it's 18 centimetres by 13, which in inches is roughly 7 by 5. I'm just going to tape off the edges, because then when you peel them off, it gives a little focus to what you've got going on inside. What I'm interested in is how these colours move on the paper. So where is that gorgeous purple lake? There it is. Let's just grab a little. I'm going to do some little dobbles of colour. Rinse my brush off, and then, oh, see how it moves. Same here. And I hope you will realise I am painting a flower. Oh, doesn't that move beautifully through that water? Oh, I like that alizarin as well. Let's drop a little bit of alizarin in there and see what happens. See whether that moves. While it's wet, merge a little or put a bit more shape on some of those petals. Oh, I liked the gamboge. I wonder, purple and yellow is always rather jolly. What if I drop some yellow in there? See how that zings against and moves through the water. Yeah, I'm liking that. Let's grab, I think that is our intense blue. So I'm going to just do the same. Clean off my brush, wiggle towards it, and let that join up. So say you wanted to paint, I don't know, hydrangeas. That's about the only intense blue flower I can think of. This would be a fun way of doing it. Loving how that's moving. Let's just try some of that cerulean that I wasn't utterly convinced about, and drop that into the water. Yeah, that's actually not bad. And how about ultramarine? Because ultramarine is such a staple of our palettes. It's, oh, that's nice. These are all moving really beautifully at the moment. The lightest of the cadmiums, which is, yes, cadmium red pale, which is quite an orangey one. Let's pop some orange, little orange marks. See what that does. And we'll grab, this is cadmium yellow. I just like doing flowers this way, simply because you do get really random petals. Right, let's top that up with a little bit of the gamboge. join some of those together. There's that lemon yellow. Put some lemon on the ends. And we'll grab some of that flesh colour. Just pop that. Oh, actually the flesh, look at the flesh colour. Just moving some of that alizarin out of the way. Maybe put in a little bit of, that was the cerulean, which I'm a lot fonder of than I thought I was going to be. Some, before this one dries, add in a little bit of the cadmium red. Then this is that flesh colour again. And again, I think maybe I'll use, this is the pale cadmium red, cobalt blue. Well, I am so impressed with how lively these paints are on the surface. They are just zooming around. Interesting to see how they dry, because again you get quite a lot of colour shift between the wet paint and the dry paint with watercolours. And there's no point having this beautiful, vibrant, wet colour if when it dries, it disappears into nothing and you're left with just disappointment. I know we're here to look at paint rather than paper, but it's staying workable for a long time, and that is a feature of cotton paper. So if you're doing this sort of wet in wet that we are here, it gives you a little bit more time to do that. So I'm just going to put a few dots to give it a centre. Just put a few stronger dots there. Loving the colour combinations over here. So I could put some indigo there. When the sheen starts to go off your paper, you should just leave it alone and stop fiddling, because if you're going over and over things, that's when your colours will become dull and you lose that freshness. Okay, I'll let this dry and we'll peel the tape off. This is now dried, so let's just take that tape off. And I cannot tell a lie, I'm well impressed with those paints. We don't appear to have had any substantial colour shifts as they've dried. I love the way they moved. Look at the marks and the blends of colour as it's all feathered through the water and swished around. For a student set, that is pretty impressive. These Qi Cai Hui paints are £38.99 in the UK, and this little book is £14.99. In the US, the same set is $39.99 and the little book is $15.99. So I think for the quality of the paint, the way it picks up, the way it moves on the paper, that is a pretty good set. I mean, it said it's a student set, but if I just use those blind, I would be thinking that that is far more towards an artist quality, and at which point that price really does look pretty good. If you'd like me to do a side-by-side comparison of all the different sets that I've got to find out which is going to be the best for beginners, do comment. It'll take a little while, so I do want to know that people are actually interested in that. But yeah, put a comment, that would be great. And if you are a beginner, I've got a beginner's watercolour class over at www.lizchadertonstudio.co.uk that I am told is very helpful.